Why is it that despite our best efforts, some changes just don't stick in our organizations? Rise and shine leaders. This is Glen Guyton, keynote speaker and workplace trainer. It is time for our executive coffee break. You know what? I don't have a beverage today, but I hope you have yours. They say you can't choose your family, but you can choose your workplace culture and your beverage. And you can even choose not to have a beverage, like I've chosen not to have one this morning. Hey, leadership matters, so you might as well get good at it. Well, change management is a vital skill for today's leader, but all too often we see initiatives start really strong, but over time they seem to fade. So let's explore today why change doesn't stick and how we can turn the tide. Now, again, if you are a visionary leader, I know you have tons and tons of ideas, things that you want to implement, things that you want to do differently in your organization, whether you are a for-profit leader or a non-profit leader. Sometimes you want to change things. And sometimes we want to change things as soon as we move into these new roles. And so often change doesn't stick, right? We have all these ideas, things we want to implement, and we get people trained, we get people excited, and we start these new ideas, and then they begin to fade over time. As a matter of fact, there are times in organizations when I wasn't the leader that I knew I was going to let a change fail. I told the rest of the people, I said, hey, just give it time. They're going to forget about this pretty soon. So there was this passive resistance to change. I don't even know. Well, I guess I would say it was passive resistance to change. That may be happening in your workplace because people know if we just hold off just a little bit, this thing is going to fade. They're going to forget about it. They're going to get tired of it. They're going to move on to something else. So let's not get too excited about this change. Does that happen to you? I bet it does. I bet it happens in your workplace all the time. And you might be part of that passive resistance saying, hey, I'm not doing this. It's not gonna last. So what I just want to give you just maybe 7 reasons why change doesn't stick in your organization. So you won't be frustrated as a leader. I don't want you frustrated. First of all, there's number one, a lack of clear vision. Without a clear, compelling vision for the change initiatives can lack direction and purpose. Leaders must articulate a future that excites and motivates their team. It's not just enough to say we're going to change something. Get people excited about it. Hey, this is great. This is the greatest thing. This is the next best thing since whatever. You have to have a clear vision. This is where we're going. This is the pathway. Show people where they're going, and so have a clear vision of what you're going to do and why you are doing it. Number two, reason that change doesn't stick: insufficient buy-in. So I told you a little bit about passive resistance already, but change is a team sport. When key stakeholders and team members aren't on board, initiatives struggle to gain the momentum that they need. So you have to get buy-in. Always test your change in different communities with different stakeholders. Who are the influencers in your organization? You may be the boss, but you may not be the biggest influence in the organization, really. Sometimes we as senior leaders, the CEOs, executive directors, we think we're in charge, but there are people at other levels in the organization that have far much more influential power. You got to get them on your side in order to make this change happen. Get their buy-in, see what the pushback is, see what the resistance is. Get them to be your greatest advocates in whatever this change process is. Your middle managers are going to have to implement and execute these things. And again, middle managers can put up a lot of resistance and keep the change from happening, even though you want it to happen. There's so many ways to circumvent change in organizations. If you don't have a compelling vision, if you haven't gotten the right buy-in, people will sabotage you. They can sabotage you. And maybe it's not to be mean or anything like that or to be evil. It's just like, hey, they're sick of all the different ideas that you come up with. And so this one they're not going to worry about. And they think that what they're doing works already. Number three, inadequate communication. Make sure you have regular, transparent communication. That's crucial throughout the change process. Failure to communicate the why, the what, and the how of change leads to confusion and resistance. You got to keep telling people this is what we're doing, this is why we're doing it, and you got to make sure that you are really clear on your talking points. Write them up. Have the same talking points for everyone throughout your organization so that your message is crystal clear. Number four, and this really goes for those of you that may be more visionary leaders, leaders with a lot of ideas that enjoy change. Number four is change fatigue. Constant change can wear teams down, leading to apathy and burnout. It's important to pace change and to support employees through the transition. So something may need to change, but it may not be the time for change. I'll say that again. Something may need to change, but it may not be the time for change. People can only take so much change. People get frustrated. People like the status quo, and so don't burn your people out. Be strategic about your change. Be strategic about your change. Number five, neglecting culture. This is the killer. This is the killer here. Culture is the killer. Again, Peter Drucker, culture eats strategy for breakfast. If the change doesn't align with the organization's culture, it is unlikely to stick. You got to work on culture before changing the culture before you start implementing these other things. Understanding and integrating these things into the existing culture is key. I work with a number of organizations, and I know one organization is getting ready to go through a change process. And there's all these promises of what's going to happen and things that are going to be retained, staffing that's going to be retained, processes that are going to be retained. And I told a friend of mine, I said, hey, I don't believe any of those promises. It's too early in the process. You're getting ready to have a major shift in the organization, and you're trying to bring culture A and match it up with culture B. You can promise me all that you want that things aren't going to change, but they are. They are going to change, and there's going to be resistance. So you have to work at this culture because some of the things that you think are going to go smoothly will not if you haven't paid attention to the culture. And so sometimes change happens and it destroys other pieces of what you hope to preserve. So you have to pay really careful attention to culture because one of the cultures is going to win. Normally what happens in a merger, combining departments, one of the culture wins. It's not a new culture typically doesn't emerge. One of the old cultures wins unless you really work intentionally at culture. Number six, lack of training and support. Implementing change without providing adequate training and resources sets up a team for failure. People need to feel equipped to succeed in the new environment. Yeah, training, information. That's important. And also that helps to start shifting some of the cultural things. You want people to, and I'll say, yeah, assimilate into the new culture. You want them to adopt the new culture. It's important. It's really important. And don't make empty promises. Train people on what's going on. Train them how you want it to be. Train them for what's next. Don't train them for what is. Train them for what's next. Number seven, failing to embed changes. Now, leaders, this is on you. Lasting change requires embedding new ways of working into the fabric of the organization. That means adjusting processes, systems, and reward structures to reinforce the change. So don't just, well, we used to do it this way, so let me just do it this way really quickly because I need to get it done. No, don't do that. You really have to model what you want to do, get these new changes embedded in the system so that people adopt them. And again, that goes back to train people in the new ways and new systems. You don't want people doing things the old way. And it's really hard to get people that have been working in the organization for a long time to adopt the new ways, but you just got to do it. Set a date for when the new changes are going to happen, roll that thing out, and realize this is probably going to cause some disruption, especially when it comes to technology. So you have to prepare your customers for this change because it's going to probably a glitch. There's always glitches when it comes to merging organizations, changing cultures, implementing something new, rolling out something new. Um, you have to have your backup systems and everything ready, especially if you're in a tech sector. You know this. But even if you're in like a nonprofit sector, a non-techie uh, area, make sure you have some kind of backups, backup process, backup flow. Be ready to inform people of what's going on because you want that change to stick. So you have to embed those changes. Uh, and again, it's training people, maybe even putting in some new managers. You may have to get rid of some old people. Now that's kind of harsh, but you may have to in order for the change to stick. If you had long-term employees, people that have been doing certain things a certain way for a long period of time, it's really hard to get them to shift. A lot of times, they're always going to be a barrier. They're always going to be this passive and active resistance in the system, and you may have to just move them on, transfer them to a new department, or totally change their role in order to make the change stick for the good of the whole. And sometimes we hold on to people and processes for too long, and the change won't stick. All right, those were the 7 things that I gave you. So remember, clear vision, insufficient buy-in, inadequate uh, communication, change fatigue, neglecting the culture, lack of training and support, and failing to embed changes. Those are the 7 reasons why change won't stick in your organization. And so my challenge for you today, identify one area where your change initiatives have struggled to stick. Reflect on the reasons why and consider applying one of the strategies we've discussed today to overcome this challenge. Make this strategy a part of your change plan, your plan before you change. Think about these 7 reasons and make sure you have a strategy, a plan to address each one of the 7 things that I've talked about on why change fails. All right, you got it? Can you do that for me? Yes, you can, because you are a better leader. So, as we close, let's not forget the strength and perseverance that it takes to lead with empathy and inclusivity. Better leaders get better results. So, to every one of you leading the charge for a more supportive and engaging workplace, I leave you with this. Stay bold, stay inspired, and remember that your actions today shape the culture of tomorrow. My name is Glen Guyton, and you have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful day.